In the previous video, we looked mainly at how the main theme of Mass Effect was crafted, adapted, and manipulated over the course of the game to support various story elements. Looking at Mass Effect 2 requires a slightly different approach. Mass Effect 1 had a singular focus, to stop Saren and ultimately Sovereign. To say that Mass Effect 2 lacks the same focus would be unfair, but we do find ourselves in situations that don't always seem to have anything to do with the main story. And before we get any further in, be aware that this video will build on my previous video about Mass Effect 1 and contain spoilers for Mass Effect 2, so if you're new to these things, pause this video, go play Mass Effect 1, give my regards to Garrus, watch my video about that, play Mass Effect 2, give my love to Tali, then come back and continue here. The biggest difference between Mass Effect 1 and 2 in terms of gameplay, aside from the much smoother combat controls, is the sheer number of teammates available. If you add in the DLC characters, your team jumps from 6 options in Mass Effect 1 to 12 in Mass Effect 2. One of the obvious benefits here is the enhanced world building and lore that we get from these characters' backstories, but it also runs the risk of feeling packed too full. It takes deliberate effort to find out about these characters, and if you happen to not care as much, then you may end up wondering why Kermit the Frog is squatting in your life support room. One of the other sides to including so many more characters is the sheer volume of music written for them. Each character's theme on the soundtrack ranges from 5 to 10 minutes of new music. Consequently, the main Mass Effect theme that we came to recognize in the first game gets sidelined in favor of the new thematic material for the characters. Speaking of characters, Shepard shares the spotlight in Mass Effect 2. The first game opens with Shepard looking out of a window into space. This game opens with someone we have never seen or heard of before, the Elusive Man. The Elusive Man is aptly named. Even over the course of the game, we learn next to nothing about him, other than he has lofty, if questionable, goals, and very deep pockets, 2,200 thread count linen pockets. His presence dominates the story. Shepard is in the game because of him, has a ship because of him, builds a team based on his recommendations, and is sent on specific missions by him. Regardless of whether or not your Shepard agrees with the Elusive Man, he is an indomitable force from beginning to end. It shouldn't be surprising then that his musical theme pervades the major story moments as well. As I mentioned, we know almost nothing about him, and he is not quick to share his secrets. So let's see what we can glean from the music. Well, not much. Right away, his theme is as elusive as his name. The meter is 7/8, which feels lopsided or off-kilter to our ear. Remember that the Mass Effect theme we heard throughout the first game was initially presented in 3/4 and occasionally in 4/4 for more militaristic scenes. Quick theory lesson: 3/4 means each measure has 3 quarter notes, while 4/4 means each measure has 4 quarter notes. Each quarter note can be divided into eighth notes, so 3/4 has 6 eighth notes grouped as 3 pairs, while 4/4 has 8 eighth notes grouped as 4 pairs. 7/8 has 7 eighth notes. It's either one too many for 3/4 or one too few for 4/4. Either way, our ear hears it as slightly wrong. It also obscures our sense of meter. Listen again to the main theme. Now compare how that feels with the Elusive Man's theme. In 7/8, the next strong beat either feels delayed by 1/8 note or rushed by 1/8 note. Both of these interpretations have the same result, to keep us on our toes and guessing, just like the Elusive Man. This is confounded further by the viola solo at the beginning. Even if you get a good feel for the 7/8, the viola still doesn't sound like it fits. Look at it like this though. This little line works very well in 4/4, with no weird rhythms at all. What makes it sound weird is what we've already discussed. 4/4 and 7/8 are almost alike, but 1/8 note off from each other. When you superimpose a melody in 4/4 over the guitar ostinato in 7/8, it just doesn't line up. Interestingly, the viola theme is taken from a track on the original soundtrack called Humans Are Disappearing, which immediately links the Elusive Man to the events of the game before they are even revealed to the player. The guitar ostinato continues virtually uninterrupted throughout the track. Harmonically, nothing is that unexpected. The bass walks down and forth by step, then jumps back up to do it again. The only thing that changes the second time through is that the bass walks back up instead of jumping up. Now here it gets fun. By now, your ear is probably starting to adapt to the 7/8. It used to feel off balance, but now you're starting to groove to it. Isn't the human brain amazing? But you're not supposed to be comfortable. You're not supposed to know what's coming. It's the Elusive Man. So composer Jack Wall changes the rhythm slightly at this point. It's not a big change or super obvious, but it works to keep us off balance. He begins alternating measures of 7/8 with measures of 9/8. It's brilliant. The original rhythm fell into groups of 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, and now that's interrupted by 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, 1-2. The fact that it's every other measure means that sense of uncertainty comes back to us and lets us know that whatever we thought we could know about the Elusive Man, we don't. The next character introduced to us through music, although we don't know it yet, are the Collectors. Look at that ship. Screw that ship. There are two musical cues that tell us the Collectors are involved. One is this unmistakable percussion battery that doesn't match the tone of anything else in the game so far. This full-bodied drum sound, punctuated with low brass, starts as the silhouette of the ship appears, tracking the Normandy. As a successor to a game whose soundtrack was dominated by 80s-inspired synth and sweeping orchestral textures, this is a starkly different sound. We know it's not the Geth well before Joker figures it out, just by virtue of the complete unfamiliarity of this music. Once the attack starts, we are introduced to the melodic theme of the Collectors. No surprise here, it's a pretty jarring collection of notes. Although these notes have a slightly random sound to them, that couldn't be less true. The distance between the first and second notes is a tritone. Generally agreed to be the most dissonant interval in Western music. So dissonant, in fact, that as the early Catholic Church was determining what kind of music would be used, it banned the use of the tritone, labeling it Diabolus in Musica, or the devil in music. Theoretically speaking, the tritone is the exact division of an octave. Our ears are tuned in to hear perfect fifths and perfect fourths as consonant. The fifth above a tonic note helps to reinforce the key, and we're accustomed to hearing the relationship between 5-1 at the end of a song. The problem with the tritone is that it fits exactly between scale degrees 4 and 5. Just like the 7/8 meter sits uncomfortably between the more familiar 3/4 and 4/4 meters, the tritone sits uncomfortably between the more familiar 4th and 5th. The next interval, though written here as a diminished 6th, sounds the same as a perfect 5th. Now hold on, you're saying. You just told us that perfect 5ths are consonant and stable intervals. Well, yes, they are, but context is everything. In this case, the perfect 5th between the second and third notes resolves down by minor 2nd. A minor 2nd, along with its inverse, the major 7th, is the next most dissonant interval after the tritone. Because the third note resolves by minor 2nd to the 4th note, which is an octave higher than we started, our ear interprets the top note as a dissonant neighbor to the other note in a tritone relation, instead of a consonant 5th. Again, context is everything. So the Collector theme is essentially as dissonant as you can get and still be in a key center. These notes first appear in long values, then are shortened and mixed up to create a sense of chaos as the attack on the Normandy continues. But I can't bear to watch that again, so let's skip forward. The third main theme we see in this game is of course our old standard, the main Mass Effect theme. Like I said, it takes a backseat to a lot of newer themes, but it still appears at the emotionally impactful moments, like this one. The strings slip in with a 4/4 version of the original cascading theme. The high strings and horn enter with a line that sounds like it's going to be our main theme, but it gets diverted, instead setting up a harmonic progression that builds even more energy. This progression moves from the 1 in E minor to the major 6, then leaps up to 3 and 4. There are two noteworthy things about this series of chords. First, both 6 and 3 are mediant relations to 1, meaning they are both a third away and both major chords. The move from minor 1 down to 6 feels more secure and familiar, but the shift up to 3 is less commonly used. The ascending mediant motion creates a feeling of hopefulness, and the fact that it's approached by a leap infuses that much more drama and energy into it. The second thing to notice is the melody line over this bass line. While the bass sits on G, the melody sits on A. This is another dissonant interval, a ninth. It creates a sense of motion because we really want one or both of these notes to move to a more stable interval. When the bass does move up to an A, we should be relieved that it matches the A in the melody, but the melody moves up with it to a B, maintaining the dissonant ninth. The bass jumps down to a C and the melody stays on a B, inverting the ninth into a seventh, not much better in terms of stability. This whole progression is designed to create forward momentum, both harmonically and melodically, to drive us to the moment when the main theme is finally revealed along with the Normandy. The theme breaks off into a series of sweeping, ascending gestures over a whole step bass descent, reinforcing the grandeur and size of the Normandy Reborn. Come on, Shepard, she already has a name. The music enters again, significantly more rhythmic as the Normandy prepares to return to the stars. The energetic strings help build musical momentum until our ship ignites her engines and the whole orchestra plays the theme that originally kicked off this entire adventure. And that's the end of the beginning. Not very far into the game, we've encountered the themes for the three major forces of the game: the Elusive Man, the Collectors, and Shepard with the Normandy. These themes each appear periodically throughout the game, exactly where you'd expect. A conversation with the Elusive Man, there's his theme. Collectors attacking Horizon, there's their theme. As I mentioned, there are a dozen new themes for each of the characters, and to go through all of them over the course of the game would require a whole video for each. So please indulge me as I skip to the end. The Suicide Mission. Various parts of the final mission use various pieces of the track from the soundtrack out of order, but I'm just going to discuss what makes this music so amazing. In the previous Mass Effect video, I talked about the idea of main theme power-up. Mass Effect 2 takes it to a whole new level. The first thing we notice is the meter, 7-8. definitely reflective of the Elusive Man's influence in all of this. After all, as great as Shepard is, we would never have even made it through the Omega-4 relay without the Elusive Man. Next is this duet between the bass and marimba. They are playing in parallel ninths. Remember that section of Normandy Reborn when ninths were used as a dissonant interval to create forward motion? Here, they're used so consistently that it, like the 7/8, eventually begins to feel normal. It's an idea found in a lot of modern music, consonant dissonance. The idea that if a dissonant sonority occurs enough, it will eventually sound consonant. On the second pass through the 16-bar phrase, the horn enters with Shepard's theme, but superimposed over the Elusive Man's 7/8 pattern. The next section adds in heavy percussion and low brass. This should remind you of something. The instruments added here are the characteristic sounds of the collectors, blasts of low brass, and a driving percussion battery. The strings play a fragmentation of Shepard's theme, the first 3 notes rising underneath the collector texture over and over. The horn again plays Shepard's theme, and the next section divides it up and passes it around from instrument to instrument. There's a sudden change following this section. The meter shifts back to 3/4, as it was in Mass Effect 1. In-game, this music happens after Shepard has defeated the Human Reaper and is fighting to get his team back to the Normandy. The conspicuous absence of the Elusive Man's 7/8 rhythm is notable here. Personally, I always chose against saving the collector base, so this musical moment represented Shepard's liberation from the Elusive Man's schemes. As Harbinger begins to taunt Shepard, the 7/8 version takes back over. Escapes the exploding base aboard the Normandy, the orchestra reaches a pinnacle of energy with sustained high strings and complex interplay among the brass. Normandy jumps away, we're left with one solo trumpet playing Shepard's theme over the last few beats of the collector drums. At this point, I'd like to make a quick side note. Fans of the Doctor Who series may recognize a striking resemblance between the Suicide Mission and the 11th Doctor's theme. It's impossible to deny the similarities. the 7/8 meter, rhythmic strings, almost identical chord progression, and at one point the horn even plays the same notes as Shepard's theme. In a Reddit AMA, Jack Wall claimed that BBC had ripped off his music, but other Reddit users were quick to point out that both Mass Effect 2 and Season 5 of Doctor Who were in development at the same time. Mass Effect 2 was released in January of 2010, and Doctor Who in April. As unlikely as this sort of coincidence might seem, it is possible that using the 12 notes found in Western music, both composers simply determined similar ways to evoke feelings of adventure and tension. Anyway, for me this is more a matter of interest than a source of contention. In both settings, the music is exciting and fits the action. The suicide mission is the ultimate culmination of themes. Mass Effect 2 is clearly Shepard's story, but it is happening in line with the elusive man's plans and in direct conflict with the Collector's plans. In the last video, I drew an analogy between manipulating a theme and cooking with different ingredients. The way Jack Wall composed Suicide Mission is more like making a 3-course meal, and he demonstrates his mastery over the music by capably combining not just a handful of musical elements, but entire musical themes to create a thrilling track for one of the best final missions of all time. I hope you liked this video, and will subscribe for more content. Do stay tuned for the next video, when we'll look at how the familiar theme takes on a very different tone in Mass Effect 3. I'll see you there.